Oops, bear with me a second. I gotta get my other one link up. Okay, so start going through the meetings. There are no future agenda items on the list as yet. So we'll go right down into past business. So there was a request made to implement some changes in the VOLTA control command to show statistics in Serkan. Yes.
Could you please share the meet, your screen to let us to see the agenda?
Oh. Huh. I did everything but actually click the button. Okay.
Thank you.
No, sorry. Okay, so for
so you're sharing your whole desktop, Joey. It might be easier to share just the window, and then it zooms it in a lot better.
All right. I lost my. Oh, come on. I got too many windows open.
Looking good.
Okay, so you still seeing the whole screen or the dual monitor?
No, I think it looks like you full screened just the browser. That works well.
Okay, cool. Okay, so for VOLTHA ticket 4766, again, this was modifying the VOLTHA control command to show ONU and OMCI statistics. And Serkan had offered to take a look at it, and was just wondering if there was any status update from that, if he's online.
I don't see him, but I can give a status there.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I saw the Serkan upstream the patch for it, but there are some comments on the patch from Holger and from me also on the task that the counter names should be camel case instead of snake case, because the previous comment output was written in camel case. So I think he need to make a change to his patch.
So it matches
source. It's for consistency. Yes, these comments. I think it's good to have their correction. But thanks that this was done to Serkan. Yeah.
Oops, sorry. Everything going wrong today. So for, oh, come on. VOLTHA 4746, OLT app removing flows based on the latest status entry. So Gustavo was implementing a unit test. He was working on the code and implementing a unit test to get it into the system. I think I was looking at that earlier. Is Gustavo on? Maybe you can comment on it.
Sorry, actually, I'm not implementing unit tests, but if we need it, maybe I could put some work into that.
Okay, whoops.
Yeah. The item was, opening a task at least for the future to implement them. But of course, if you, have chance to look at it and implement the test, that would be good. Other than that, there was an action there, I think, for this one and this next one to increment the honors, versions. So bump up the version string.
Yes, and I'm trying to do that. I sent a commit to OLT app first to increment the OLT app version, and then I guess that after that is merged, then I could send another patch to incrementing the VOLTA ONUS version and referencing the new OILT app version. So
Okay.
I guess we still need a review on Garrett, if somebody could take a look.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so for the, oh, go ahead.
Who would do this review? Perhaps it is good to assign somebody here
Advanio?
also.
Were any reviewers selected, or were you relying on the default reviewers in Garrett when the patch was submitted? Or would anyone like to sign up to do the reviews?
Yeah, I can review it. Anybody, I mean, in the community that in the reviewer list can review also. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Maya.
Okay, so for the VOLTHA Go controller, what's joining?
So
Mhm.
here, Joy, I think we were trying to carry the test from the Santa Clara side to somewhere else, to Berlin or the Radices side, because the XGS PON, XGS OLT in the Santa Clara side was broken.
Mhm.
And we were trying to carry, I think you and Girish were trying to carry this tests onto a new XGS PON. Maybe this one will be the Zyxel in the Berlin site.
Yep. Let me see. So Girish has submitted some changes in the CI management repo, submitting some, if you'd like to speak on it. There were some patches submitted. I did go in and review 2 of them. There were some cosmetic edits in the 3rd, but those changes are on their way in.
Thanks, Jay, for the update. So yeah, I did submit a few patches. I think Joey has reviewed her counts as a +1. So once we have enough reviews, we are going to merge that and see how, and we'll see how the test executes. I'm sure some adjustments might be needed later. I mean, that's what I have seen in the past. So we'll get through that. I remember that this is Zyxel OLT and a Zyxel ONU, and we haven't tested Turk Telecom workflows on these before. So we can expect some issues. We might be able to get some help on the Zyxel OLT, but I'm not sure how much support we are going to get on those ONUs, but let's see.
Okay, good. Let's see. So an issue was reported by Daniel. Daniel was working on checking documents. Is there any status update on this if Daniel's on the call?
Yes, there is. Mahir sent out some comments in the Jira ticket, point out 4 different points about this issue that I reported. And I was looking at the points, and mostly they could be easily done, and I could submit a patch for them. He mentioned first of all, not calling the delete device in a separate Go routine in one of his points. I could submit a patch for that. And we were discussing also about the reboot operation during the delete. And he pointed out that as we discussed in the last week's TST meeting, it was not crucial. And he suggested sending a Kafka event, maybe that could also be done. But there was only one point that I think we should discuss a bit more. And he pointed out that during the device research cleanup, there's still no error treatment. And we could do something about that if there's any problem deleting anything from the KV store. So either we could continue deleting all the rest of the data, or responding immediately back to the core when an operations failed. So that one we could discuss a bit more, I think.
Okay.
Yes, as Daniel said, I mean, there are 4 points, but some of them we discussed, and I think we're on the same page. Like sending the appropriate response to the northbound system when delete API is called in core. The second one is about reboot. I mean, if the reboot fails, then the OpenIT sends an error back to the core, and we said that we shouldn't send this. That's also, I think, everybody on the same page. The rest is, I mean, an important thing here we need to discuss is there are some data in the KV store in different paths, and during this cleanup, I mean, delete device, we clean all the data one by one from the KV store, and we don't send any response back if they're succeeded or not. So my proposal is to send the error back if any of them failed. And the second important point here is this is not done in a transactional way. I mean, in a single transaction. So it's not too say possible to roll back when you fail in a delete operation. So we need to come with a few type of solutions. I mean, if a fail occurred, we can respond back immediately to core and do not do the rest of the delays. This is the first thing to do. I mean, first type of action. And the second one is we may respond with error to the core, but still continue to delete the rest of the data. And the third, we can change all to a single transaction so that all data can be deleted once, or any failure occurs, any delete operation will be done on the KV store. So these are, I mean, is the important item here to discuss on technically. So I want to open the stage to anybody if anyone wants to comment on that and suggest any, anything here. Okay, so my suggestion is to currently return back to core immediately and do not delete the rest of the data. And perhaps we can open a task to check if we can do this operation in a single transaction as a bulk insert to KV store for an improvement task. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments from anyone?
I'm just thinking, but I'm not sure what to suggest, Mahir.
Okay, currently we're taking very, little step as an action. So we can continue to, ask this question in the next TSD or on the task. Also, we can, talk on the task and select channel.
Mhm.
If, any further actions need to be done or not. So let's keep in mind this item and do any comments on select channel or on the task.
Okay, Mary, just to confirm, right now your suggestion is to immediately return the error to the core. That's it?
Yes.
Okay.
Would we have some retry mechanism? Like make Volta retry?
In some operations we have, but in delayed operation, I think we don't have. We can introduce a retry here also. But let's do this in this way. Touch as little as required, so then we can discuss more and take the more actions.
So if we
can
get
later.
sorry, Mahir.
Go
So
ahead.
if we get an error for the delete operation, the next action would be force deleting the OLT, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yes. So if that solves our problem, I think the solution is okay at this point now.
In force delete, probably core and OLT adapter doesn't care if any data left behind or not. They just try to delete all the data. That's all.
Okay.
Yes, perhaps, when we make the change in OLT adapter, we need to be careful when, changing the functions, because they may be called both in force delete and delete. If it changes, some function to immediately return in delayed case, then this will also may affect force delete. So, Daniel, for your information, to be, careful to do the changes and check if they're also used in force delete or not.
Oh, okay, I'll check it. So for first batch, I could do this simple approach, just returning it immediately, and also including the other points that you have pointed out in your comment.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahir, I have a question about another problem on the OLT failed reboot. If I understood well, you have proposed to generate an event northbound, right, to inform the operator that the OLT didn't reboot. Am I right?
Which one is that? Okay, the reboot case in this item you
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In reboots, as we said, it's mainly the delayed operation, not the reboot operation. So OLT adapter tries to reboot the device after it deleted all the data. So it tries to reboot the OLT in case the OLT is not a broken one and users wants to, configure it later, use it later. So we said that we don't have to respond the error here to the core. This doesn't mean an error occurred in the delayed operation. So, but at least we can send an event, I guess, to the, Kafka, and so the northbound system know that this, I mean, OLT is deleted, but we cannot reboot it. It's
Yeah,
not rebooted.
I was thinking about it, but what kind of event we could generate on Kafka, right? Because the OLT failed reboot is a kind of internal event. Are you proposing to disclose a kind of error on Kafka? What kind of event?
Yeah, I think we have internal internal means, I mean, we send events on the Kafka. Some of them are used by ONOS or ONOS apps, and some of them are used by the NEM layers, other components of the NEM layer. So I cannot, I mean, say specifically this kind of event, but I mean, we can check. We have events library on the libgo and also OLT and OLT adapter. They send different kinds of events in different cases. So this should be, I mean, a communication type, you know, event that we can send to the Kafka. There should be a lot of examples in the OLT adapter. I mean, if you want, I can check, and I mean, we can define a new event there, or if we can use an existing one or not. I can check and we comment on the task.
Okay, thank you. So if understood well, just generating the event, it's enough for you, and we could not try to reboot again, right?
Yes.
Just send the event to inform.
Yes, yeah, that's my suggestion. Just send an event to inform the others that the reboot operation is failed only.
Okay, thank you.
Are we all set on that topic? Okay. The last time on the agenda, the Python 3.6 thing we finished up last week. There were just a couple of items for the build system that came up, a couple of FYIs, and I do have a question. So there's a Jenkins node called VOLTHA Scale 2 that a lot of the VOLTHA scale tests are sending work at. That node is currently offline. There's no definition for it. I'm trying to figure out what happened to it. But while I was poking at VOLTHA Scale 2, I got onto the VOLTHA Scale hardware and I found a few other things. One of which, the management console is logging power supply general failures that have been appearing every now and then. The equipment has a 1600 watt power supply, so I can't see the HP blade. There's some HP blades in a chassis. I can't see it, them imposing a load large enough to be able to affect the power supply. Is anybody familiar with the background for this equipment and know if the supply might have been replaced or if there was any debugging that has gone on over time? We have 4 blades in a chassis. 2 of them are currently working. I rebooted one of them this weekend and it was wedged again this morning. So something's going on with that. No MAC addresses, or only 2 MAC addresses are being allocated for the equipment. So the hardware doesn't look like it's in a good state. Is anybody familiar with the background on the power supply?
Yeah, I don't know, Joey. This hardware came in before you and I had joined ONF, and right now this hardware is at Stratasys. I know it has no backup power. I mean, I installed it. I moved it from ONF labs to Stratasys labs. I don't recall installing a backup power for this. You know, we can ask folks at Stratasys to install one if it's needed. And as far as I recall, it's a 2U chassis with 4 blades. Each of those blades is a server. And this hardware came from Flex. Yeah, that's a different company.
Yeah, okay.
That is as far as I can tell.
Okay.
You said this is this the hardware that is sent to Radisys?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I just have one other FYI. On this or on the chassis, one of the blades had, the system logs were being filled by ACPI power mon warnings. I blacklisted that kernel module because it's was going bananas. And from what I read about it, it's due to a BIOS bug, creating an invalid buffer size. And that in turn pretty much renders the monitoring daemon useless. So I'll try and track down an updated, see if an updated BIOS is available, and maybe we can get that installed on the machine and get the power monitor back online. But that's it for me. Okay, well, I guess that's all for the agenda items. Does anybody
Okay.
have any topics they want to go over?
No, for the last item for this hardware issue, it seems that with this power issue is, I mean, probably we will end up with some hardware change needs.
Mhm.
Yeah, perhaps this question may, I mean, better to ask this question to Timon. Timon, how do we do these kinds of change if needed?
So you caught me. I left the room and I just walked back in. So I don't have context. Sorry.
There's a VOLTHA test pod or VOLTHA scale pod that has Radisys equipment in it. They're two chassis, 4 blades per chassis. And we've been having some trouble with them. I was on the management console this weekend and happened to notice that we've been getting power supply problems logged. Grish just mentioned that we do not have a redundant power supply in the machine right now, so we only have a single supply. 2 of the 4 blades in one of the chassis are unresponsive, and Mahir was, I think, just asking how we address the hardware problems if we need to replace it, if that's an accurate statement.
Yeah, well, I guess there are a couple of questions here. So there's maybe a question of, like, you know, physically who can do the work. And so in this case, you know, Radisys has volunteered to be kind of the hands on the ground if there's something to be done. The second is, you know, are we talking about just, or do we need to, you know, do we need new components? I think I heard this was old hardware that predates even Girish, so maybe it's just antiquated, needs to be pulled out. And then, you know, then there's the larger question of how do we bring in new hardware, new resources, and typically we do that kind of in a communal donation, things coming in from different sources kind of way. So I don't know if that helps. Maybe you could be more specific. Are we talking about trying to replace these power supplies, or are we trying to do something bigger?
You know, so I was talking to Tio about this. You know, Tio was mostly dealing with this hardware. He was mostly involved, you know, in scale tests. So he said to me that, you know, it's a scale test server, and for the scale test we need a 3-node cluster, and if we still have, you know, 3 blades working, I mean, that should be good. I mean, we shouldn't worry about the blade that's not working. We knew that, you know, one of the blades in one of those 2 servers was not working when we were all there. It seems like one more blade has gone bad, but that shouldn't still affect, you know, how the scale cluster functions. I don't think we'll be able to replace that single blade or fix it, but we should still get scale tests going with the 3 servers that we have on those. I mean, 3 blades on those. It may be a futile effort, you know, trying to fix, you know, the blade that has gone wrong. If it's simple, yeah, that's fine. But if it's not, I mean, let's not worry too much about it.
So it sounds like we have a bare minimum, you know, what we need. There are still 3 working blades.
Yeah.
I see 2 available in this, so I'm confused by that. So
okay, so there are 2 scale clusters, and 3 blades are functional in each of those chassis. Yeah.
There's only 2 blades that are functional in the second.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 chassis. One's VOLTHA scale 1 and the second one's VOLTHA scale 2. This pertains only to VOLTHA scale 2, and within that, only 2 of the 4 blades are active right now.
Ah, I see. Okay. So I thought one blade in each chassis. So yeah, so now I understand. So two of the blades in the single chassis have gone wrong. So that actually makes the scale test. That actually makes us. That's not a good cluster. I mean, it's only two. We need at least three.
I think there may be some peripheral problems too with like the kernel module that was running. That ACPI PowerMon daemon was adding a decent load to the machine because there were a lot of events being logged, and I'm sure there were a lot of interrupts going on as part of logging. So that could end up affecting the results of the test too. Independent of there just being 2 versus 3 blades.
If you think, a redundant power could solve the problem, I mean, I can check with, Radisys folks. I have a contact and, ask them to connect a redundant power supply.
Yeah, redundant supply would be good. At least we wouldn't lose the entire machine if the power supply goes belly up.
Well, what I heard is that, and I'm, that does it. Girish, if you're asking if the second supply would help bring up the third blade, that seems unlikely, but maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, most unlikely, but it seems like, I didn't fully understand the problem probably, but it seems like, some power issues were causing some interrupts and, bringing down the blade or something like that.
Right.
Not sure.
Right. Well, maybe this is, needs to be worked offline, not with everybody here, but it sounds like it's not a, flaming, emergency right now, but we need to get on top of this and get it fixed. Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess there is a question if there's a, well, sorry, I was just gonna say, if there's a specific action we can take, I guess, I don't know, we identified a specific action, right? Is it worth trying to have somebody in the lab at least reset the blades or something, or is that the minimum action to take?
I already I actually reset one of the blades this weekend, and as of this morning it came back online for a little while, but as of this morning it was offline again, or unusable, I should say. You can't contact it.
I was talking about physically resetting, like reseat it into the slot.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. I would say that that's the minimum first action to somebody who actually can get their hands on it. Just make sure nobody pulled the blade out or something too, right? I guess that's not the case if you're able to reset it.
Okay. Okay, so does anybody else have any other agenda items or anything you want to cover? So I guess that's probably a wrap then. Okay, well, thanks everybody for stopping by.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Yep, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.